Khaled Saleh is director of the Syrian Coalition Media Office. He joins us now from Istanbul, and much effort, certainly on the US and Russian side, to get everybody together at an international conference on Syria at some point next June. Now, the Syrians have said, in principle, they are willing to attend that meeting. Are you and the SNC?
Well, what we've said is that, in general, we agree to the principle. We welcome any political solution that's going to bring an end to the crisis which Assad had put us through. However, we had a couple of things that we always remind all of our allies, especially in the Friends of Syria group. First, any solution must meet the aspirations of the Syrian people in establishing a democratic and a free country. Second, the transitional period must start with the departure of Assad and the heads of the security apparatus. I'm a bit concerned because the news coming out from France at this point tells us that Mr. Kerry and Lavrov might have agreed, and I must use might because we're not still sure, that no discussions in Geneva 2 will be around military or security forces.
So you wouldn't go. Let me stop you there, sir, because we need the news tonight. So if that were the case, you wouldn't be prepared as an organisation to turn up, right?
It would make me really wonder what the value of the discussion will be. We're not going there, you know, to have negotiations for the sake of negotiations.
Okay, let me put this to you. Let me put this to you tonight, because it seems to me one of the problems that the West has with the Syrian opposition is that there is no sort of one overarching organisation that anybody feels speaks for everybody. Now, speaking to the Daily Beast today, General Salam Idris, who of course is the leader of the Supreme Military Council of the Free Syrian Army, was with John McCain on this surprise visit to Turkey and Syria, and he said this: what we want from the US government is to take the decision to support the Syrian revolution with weapons and ammunition, anti-tank missiles and anti-aircraft weapons. Of course, we want a no-fly zone, and we ask for strategic strikes against Hezbollah, both inside Lebanon and inside Syria. This is crucial. Do you support what General Idris has written and said today?
Definitely. These were the specific demands.
Lebanon and Syria.
Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. It's not a Lebanese organization. It's an Iranian organization. The EU is considering putting them on the terrorist list. We've made the specific demands, to the same demands to the Friends of Syria group. Hezbollah militias, according to intelligence report that we're receiving from Western countries, they're telling us that Hezbollah militias are fully engaged at this point. They're throwing tens of thousands of fighters into Syria. We also have pictures today coming out of Iran where they're asking for volunteers and sending them to fight against innocent Syrians, which is a big disaster for us, because you have Hezbollah militias, you have Iranian generals and Iranian now volunteers. We have Russian weapons that's arriving 2 to 3 times per week. You know, Syrians are fighting against some major powers. After that, the 13th largest army in the world, the Syrian army.
Let me put this to you. 2 questions. Firstly, have you been given a deadline by the US as to whether you will attend this meeting or not? Yes or no?
No, we have not been given a deadline.
Fine.
Many details are still vague, by the way.
No to the deadline tonight. Right. One of the problems, again, that the international community has is the idea of arming the rebels. And this is what the Austrians and, for example, the Swedes are saying tonight. Arming the rebels, easing the embargo on Syrian rebels, might mean that extremists get, and I'm looking here, anti-tank missiles, ammunition, anti-aircraft weapons into their hands. So effectively, until somebody can delineate where these arms are going, there are many members of the international community who find the prospect of arming extremist militants in Syria, and I think we all agree that they are fighting on the ground under the umbrella, as it were, of the rebels. That's too worrying a thought. That's not going to happen, is it?
Here's the deal. So the U.S., France, and England have been very involved. They've been monitoring the SMC, which is headed by General Salim Idris. They've been monitoring it now for over 6.5 months, and they're able to watch the non-lethal aid and how it is distributed to the different brigades. There's very specific monitoring system, auditing systems, and the U.S. monitors this very, very closely, and that's the reason they chose to provide General Salim Idris.
But hang on a minute, sir. Let me very briefly. How can anybody monitor anything on the ground when very few people get the chance to even be in the areas where these arms are being used?
Not at all, actually. People go in and out of Syria all the time. Reporters go in and out of Syria all the time. What we've asked, let me give you an example about chemical weapons. We have reports, and we have reports that Saraqib, which is a liberated area, that chemical weapons were used there. We invited the United Nations, we invited the U.S., England, we invited the French to come in. It's open. We have full control over the land, and we said, come here, take samples, and determine by yourself. Let the evidence show who is using the chemical weapons. The same thing applies to weapons. And let me give you an example about some of the stuff that General Salim Idris is doing. They're going to the different brigades that are fighting. If they find a single miner fighting within these brigades, and they are cut off of any supplies. If they find any foreign fighter fighting amongst these brigades, they are cut off supplies completely. So we are very aware of the concerns of the international community, and we're telling them, listen, we have the same concerns, and we want to make sure that we are all that the weapons don't fall into the wrong hands.
On the same page. All right, Khaled, thank you for that. Let's talk again soon.